The cavern beneath Viralia was quiet at last. The energy of the Forgotten One pulsed softly, restrained by the intricate network of ancient mechanisms and human ingenuity. Captain Lyra Drayton and her team had spent hours stabilizing the entity, guiding its movements and ensuring that its vast power would not break free. The humans had demonstrated courage, creativity, and teamwork in a way no other species had before. "We've done it," Talia said, her voice trembling with relief. "For now, it's contained." Alara nodded, her eyes scanning the massive, coiled figure of the ancient entity. "Contained, yes, but we must not underestimate it. It is intelligent and patient. The galaxy tried to forget it for a reason. Our work isn't finished yet." Kalen, the Varelian elder, stepped closer. His expression mixed awe with gratitude. "Humans, I cannot describe what you have done. None of us could have succeeded. You have not only held the entity, you have shown it that courage, intelligence, and cooperation are worthy of respect." Ilara smiled faintly. "That is what humans do. We survive, we adapt, we protect, and sometimes we remind others that hope is never wasted." The humans spent the next several hours reinforcing the cavern's mechanisms, guided by both their intuition and the patterns they had observed in the entity's movements. The Varelians worked alongside them, learning quickly from the humans' methods. Where alien technology had failed, human creativity had succeeded. The city above could be rebuilt, but the ancient being beneath required constant vigilance, a challenge the humans had proven capable of handling. Rin spoke, his voice filled with admiration. "Captain, it's amazing. The way it responds to us, it's almost like it understands our intentions. None of the instruments can measure it fully, yet we manage because we observe and adapt." Ilara nodded. "Observation is key. Humans thrive by noticing what others overlook. By acting decisively, creatively, and cooperatively, we turn impossible situations into solvable problems. That is why the galaxy remembers us differently." Kalen observed the humans quietly for a moment, then said, "I see now why the legends spoke so highly of your species. Humans are unpredictable, yes, but in the best possible way. Your courage and thinking, they are unmatched." Ilara's gaze softened. "We do not act for glory. We act because we must. We protect those who cannot protect themselves, and we face challenges when others hesitate. That is our nature. And sometimes, that is enough to change the course of history." As night fell on Viralia, the cavern's glow cast shimmering lights across the walls. The humans, exhausted but vigilant, took turns monitoring the entity and reinforcing the containment network. The ancient being had ceased its struggles for now, but its intelligence remained, and it seemed to recognize the human's presence as something unique. A species capable of courage, strategy, and compassion, Kalen whispered. "Do you think it respects you?" Ilara considered this. Respect is earned through action, not words. Humans earn it every time we face the impossible and refuse to give up. That is our legacy. The next morning, the humans and Varelians ascended from the cavern to the surface. The ruins of the city lay still, but there was a sense of renewal in the air. Humans had not only contained an ancient threat, they had inspired hope in a species that had lived in fear for generations. Rin looked out across the city. "Captain, they will rebuild, and they will remember us, not for strength but for what we represent, courage, ingenuity, and determination." Ilara nodded. "Exactly. Humans are remembered not because we conquer, but because we endure. We act when others hesitate. We find solutions when others fail. That is why the galaxy respects us. That is why we survive." Kalen approached, his eyes bright with admiration. "You have taught us more than we could have imagined. Not just about technology, but about resilience, teamwork, and hope." "The Varelians will never forget what you have done." Ilara smiled. "And neither should you forget that the galaxy holds more challenges than this one. Humans face them because we refuse to surrender. You now have the tools, the knowledge, and the courage to continue. We will leave guidance, but the legacy of survival and ingenuity is yours to carry forward." As the humans prepared to depart Viralia, they left behind energy conduits, instructional guides, and carefully documented plans for maintaining the containment system. The Varelians worked closely with them, learning to adapt the ancient machines to their own technology. Together, they ensured that the entity remained restrained, not by fear but by understanding, observation, And careful action. Lyra stood at the edge of the city, gazing at the twin suns rising above the horizon. The galaxy is full of challenges, she said softly to her team. But humans are never unprepared. We survive, we adapt, and we protect. That is our strength. That is our edge. That is what the galaxy needs. As the starward horizon lifted off from the planet's surface, the humans looked down at the ruins of Virelia and the newly reinforced containment structures below. The Virelians waved, their faces filled with hope and gratitude. Humanity's actions had not only saved lives, they had reminded a species, and perhaps even the galaxy, that courage, creativity, and determination could overcome the most impossible threats. Rin broke the silence. Captain, the galaxy will remember this. Humans are remarkable, Lyra smiled. Yes, we are. Not because we are the strongest, but because we act when others hesitate. Because we think when others panic. Because we protect when others flee. That is what makes humans extraordinary. Kalen's voice came over the communicator one last time. Humans, the Virelians, will never forget your courage and ingenuity. You have changed the course of our history and reminded us of what is possible. The galaxy has much to learn from you. Lyra nodded. We all have lessons to share. Humans act, and sometimes our actions inspire others to rise above fear and despair. That is the true strength of humanity. As the starward horizon sailed into the stars, leaving Virelia behind, the humans reflected on the events that had unfolded. They had faced an ancient, intelligent, and powerful entity. They had acted decisively, creatively, and courageously, and they had succeeded, not because of raw strength, but because of uniquely human qualities: teamwork, resilience, and the courage to face the unknown. Kalen watched the ship disappear into the sky, feeling a mixture of awe and gratitude. The galaxy may forget many things, he said softly to the remaining Virelians, but humans will never be forgotten. Their courage, their ingenuity, their hope is unmatched. Lyra sat in the captain's chair, looking out at the stars. The galaxy is vast, she said quietly, and there are many challenges ahead. But humans thrive in the impossible. That is why we survive. That is why we endure. And that is why the galaxy, no matter how vast or uncertain, will always remember humanity's way. The twin suns of Virelia disappeared behind the horizon, leaving the planet bathed in gentle twilight. The humans had left a legacy, not just of survival, but of hope, ingenuity, and courage that would inspire generations to come. And somewhere deep beneath the surface, the Forgotten One remained, massive, intelligent, and restrained but aware. It had witnessed humanity's courage, adaptability, and determination. It had acknowledged them, not as enemies, but as something new, something the galaxy had not seen before. The humans had proven, once again, that true strength was not measured in power alone, but in courage, creativity, and the willingness to act when others would hesitate. That was the legacy they carried through the stars, a legacy that would endure long after the starward horizon sailed into the unknown. And as the ship disappeared into the night sky, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, reflecting the enduring truth. Humans survive, adapt, and inspire hope wherever they go, leaving a mark on the galaxy that cannot be forgotten. The mission was complete, the entity contained, and the galaxy reminded once more that humanity's greatest strength lay not in might, but in ingenuity, courage, and the power to protect others, even against forces the universe itself had feared. From one spiral arm to another, entire star systems went dark, their signals cut short, their worlds stripped bare. The threat was not an empire, not a rival fleet, not even a rebellion. It was something worse, something without mercy, without emotion. They were called the Void Harvesters. No one knew where they had come from. Some claimed they were machines left behind by an ancient race designed for a forgotten war. Others whispered that they were life forms that had abandoned flesh long ago, replacing themselves with cold steel and endless hunger. But the truth did not matter. What mattered was that they moved in silence, consuming planets and leaving only dust. The Galactic Council had tried everything. Fleets of warships, advanced weapons, even experimental technologies, all failed. The Harvesters adapted to every strike. Colonies that had existed for thousands of years disappeared in hours. Refugees fled from world to world, bringing nothing but stories of despair. In the shining chambers of the Council Hall, where leaders of hundreds of civilizations once argued over trade or politics, There was now only fear. For the first time in galactic history, every species agreed on one thing. They were losing. And so, in desperation, the Council sent a signal. It was not a message to allies, for there were none left to call. It was not a call for negotiations, for the harvesters knew nothing of peace. It was a cry into the void, a last hope thrown to the stars, to any who hear us. The message began, "We are dying. Our fleets are broken. Our worlds are falling. If you are out there, if you can hear this, please, help us." The words were translated into every known galactic language, then broadcast on frequencies that could travel beyond known space. The Council knew it was foolish. They knew no miracle would come. But what else could they do? It was the galaxy's final SOS far away, on a small blue world light years away, orbiting an ordinary yellow star. There was a planet called Earth. To the Galactic Council, it was nothing, a small, unremarkable sphere circling on the edge of nowhere. No one in the Council even knew it existed, but humans lived there. Earth was a death world, though its people did not use that word. It was a place of storms and earthquakes, of deserts that could kill the unprepared, of oceans filled with predators, of mountains that crushed the weak. Disease and famine had once ruled its surface. And yet from that chaos humanity had risen. Humans had learned to fight fire, tame animals, build shelters, cross oceans, and finally, fly beyond their own sky. They were not the oldest species. They were not the most advanced. But they were stubborn, curious, and impossible to break. It was on a quiet night at a deep space observatory that Earth first heard the signal. Dr. Elena Vargas, a scientist who spent her night scanning radio frequencies, froze as her instruments detected a pattern. At first she thought it was interference, just another burst of cosmic noise. But as she adjusted her equipment, she realized it was not random. It was structured. It was language. Her hands trembled as she recorded it and sent it to her team. Within hours, the message spread through universities, research centers, and government labs. Linguists worked day and night, trying to decode the strange words. Mathematicians confirmed it was no natural signal. Engineers mapped the frequency, and then, after weeks of work, the message was translated. "We are dying. Our fleets are broken. Our worlds are falling. If you are out there, if you can hear this, please, help us." The room fell silent. A choice for humanity world leaders gathered in secret meetings. Some said it was too dangerous. If such powerful enemies could defeat entire galactic civilizations, what chance did Earth have? Humanity had only recently reached the stars with their own colonies on Mars and a few stations around nearby worlds. Others argued that it was not their fight. Why risk Earth's survival for strangers? Humanity had enough problems: climate shifts, resource struggles, political disputes. But there were voices that spoke with fire. They reminded the world that humanity had always risen when faced with danger. They reminded them of history, of times when humanity had fought against impossible odds and endured. "If they fall," one leader said, "what happens when the harvesters come here? Do we wait until they arrive at our door, or do we meet them now?" The debate raged for weeks. And then, finally, a decision was made. Humanity would answer the call, preparing the fleet. The world changed almost overnight. Resources were poured into space programs. Factories that once built civilian ships now forged armored hulls. Engineers designed weapons that could fight in both atmosphere and vacuum. Soldiers trained in zero-gravity combat. Scientists studied every scrap of data in the SOS, searching for weaknesses in the enemy. And yet, even as they prepared for war, humanity also prepared to bring hope. Ships were built not only with weapons but with medical bays, food supplies, and shelters. If they were to meet survivors, they wanted to bring life, not just destruction. The news spread across Earth. Some were afraid. Some were proud. But all were united in one thought: humanity would not stay silent. They would answer the galaxy's SOS. The first journey months later, the fleet was ready. Not vast compared to the great alien armadas of legend, but powerful in its own way. Each ship carried scars of Earth's history: steel born from volcanoes, circuits built to survive storms, armor designed to withstand extremes. As the engines roared, the people of Earth watched from the ground, from cities and villages, from mountains and seas. They watched as humanity left their small blue world, not as explorers, not as conquerors, but as rescuers. No one knew what they would find. No one knew if they would return. But for the first time, the galaxy was about to learn something that Earth had always known. Humanity might be young. Humanity might be reckless. Humanity might even be fragile compared to the vast cosmos. But humanity never ignored a cry for help. Meanwhile, in the council far away, in the halls of the Galactic Council, the leaders waited. Days turned to weeks, weeks to months. They watched as more systems fell. Some began to lose hope entirely, believing their SOS had been swallowed by the void. And then one day a signal arrived, not from their own fleets, not from any species they knew. It came from beyond their maps, beyond their borders. The message was short, simple, and clear. "This is Earth, we hear your call." "We are coming." The chamber erupted in confusion. Earth? What was Earth? Who were these humans? No one had ever heard of them. Could they be trusted? Were they powerful enough to make any difference? And yet in that moment, something happened that had not been felt in generations. Hope returned. The news spread like wildfire across the Galactic Council. A message had arrived, from a world no one had ever heard of, from a species that had never spoken in the great halls of the Council. They called themselves humans, and they had promised to come. At first, most believed it was a mistake. Perhaps the signal was from smugglers or scavengers hoping to trick desperate civilizations. Others thought it was a cruel joke, a false hope meant to distract them while the void harvesters advanced. But deep within their hearts, many dared to hope it was true. For centuries, the galaxy had been ruled not by empires but by balance. Every great species contributed something. One known for science, another for diplomacy, another for trade or medicine. But in the face of the harvesters, none of those strengths were enough. What they needed now was something different, something unknown, and the unknown was coming. Arrival at the edge of the galaxy months later, alarms rang across border stations near Council space. A fleet was approaching from uncharted regions. At first, officers feared it was the harvesters. But as scanners read the energy signatures, confusion spread. These were not harvester ships. The fleet that emerged was unlike anything they had seen before. The vessels were not smooth and elegant like council ships, nor fragile and delicate like those of the smaller species. They were sharp-edged, armored, and built for survival. Their hulls were dark, scarred with the marks of past battles. They were not beautiful, but they looked alive, as if every plate of metal carried a story. The leading ship sent a signal. The voice was firm, calm, and filled with purpose. "This is Captain Daniel Hayes of the United Earth Fleet. We received your SOS. We are here to help." For a long moment, no one spoke. The translators repeated the words in every galactic language. The council delegates stared at the message, stunned. They had expected a small scout ship, perhaps one or two fragile explorers. Instead, a fleet of warships stood before them, and for the first time in decades, it was not the harvesters who had arrived. The first meeting, the council agreed to hold a formal meeting. A station was prepared near the capital system. Security was tightened not out of hostility, but out of fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of these new beings who came from a world no one had charted. When the human delegation arrived, whispers filled the grand chamber. Humans were taller than many species, their movements steady and confident. They did not hide their faces behind masks or their bodies behind fragile suits. Their skin showed scars, their eyes burned with curiosity. To species born on gentle worlds of light and peace, the humans looked dangerous. Yet when Captain Hayes and his officers entered, they did not act like conquerors. They bowed their heads respectfully, offered their hands in greeting, and spoke with calm voices. "Thank you for receiving us," Hayes said. "We know the galaxy is in danger. We came not to rule, but to stand with you." The chamber erupted into quiet discussion. Shock and fear. Some delegates whispered in fear. "Look at them. Their bodies are heavy, their muscles thick. They are built for violence, even their ships. They look like predators made of steel." Others were more hopeful. They crossed the void just to answer a call for help. Would a predator do that? Still doubt lingered. One counselor finally asked aloud, "Why would your people risk everything for us? You do not know us. You owe us nothing. Why come at all?" Captain Hayes did not hesitate. "Because we heard your cry," he said simply. "And where we come from, when someone cries for help, you do not turn away. You answer. The chamber fell silent. No one had expected such an answer. The test of trust, despite the words, not all were convinced. Some suspected hidden motives. Some feared humans were merely waiting to seize power. To test their intentions, the council asked the humans to assist with a crisis. A border colony named Lyra was under threat. The Void Harvesters had been sighted moving toward it. Council fleets were already preparing to retreat. Believing the colony could not be saved, the humans disagreed. "We do not abandon people," Hayes declared. "Show us the way." The council reluctantly agreed. If the humans failed, they would be no different from the rest. If they succeeded, perhaps hope was real. March to battle. The human fleet jumped toward Lyra. Along the way, council ships followed at a distance, observing carefully. The alien commanders whispered to each other, wondering if the humans truly believed they could stop the harvesters. When the enemy arrived, the difference was clear. The council ships hung back, cautious as always, while the humans surged forward. Their vessels did not scatter. They advanced like a shield. Missiles streaked from their ships, striking with precision. Instead of retreating from the harvesters' deadly beams, the humans moved in close, dodging with daring maneuvers. On the ground, human soldiers landed to defend the colony. They built barricades, turned rubble into weapons, and fought with relentless energy. The aliens watching from orbit were astonished. Where their own troops often broke and fled, the humans stood firm even when outnumbered. For the first time in living memory, the harvesters were pushed back. Lyra survived, awe and respect. When the battle ended, the council could hardly believe what they had witnessed. Colonies had fallen for decades, yet here, against all odds, the humans had won. The survivors of Lyra cheered as human soldiers helped repair shelters and distribute supplies. Children ran toward them, laughing, unafraid of their strange faces. To the colonists, the humans were not monsters. They were saviors. The council observers reported what they had seen. Their word spread across the galaxy. The humans fight like no other. They do not flee. They do not surrender. They protect even those they have never met. Some still feared their power, but even the doubters could not deny the truth. Humanity had proven something no other species had dared to show: the will to fight the harvesters and win. New allies back at the council hall, debates grew fierce. Could these humans be trusted as true allies? Could they be allowed into the inner circles of Galactic Command? Or were they too dangerous to stand beside? But when the survivors of Lyra spoke, the choice became clear. "They saved us," the governor of the colony declared. "Without them, we would be nothing but dust. I do not care if they are frightening. I do not care if their ways are strange. They came when no one else did. That is enough." And so, though not all agreed, the council officially recognized humanity as allies. A new beginning as the meeting ended. Captain Hayes looked across the chamber filled with countless species, each unique, each fragile, yet each carrying the spark of life. He spoke once more, his voice firm. "We are not here to replace you. We are not here to rule you. We are here to fight with you. Together we will face the harvesters. Together we will endure." For the first time in decades, the council chamber erupted in applause. And though the future was uncertain, though the harvesters still consumed world after world, the galaxy no longer felt alone. The humans had arrived, and with them came something the galaxy had nearly forgotten: hope. The battle for Lyra was only the beginning. News of humanity's victory spread like starlight through the galaxy. Entire civilizations whispered of the strange newcomers, the Deathworlders who had done what no other species dared. For the first time in years, the word victory was spoken without mockery. But hope is fragile, and the Void Harvesters were relentless. Shadows on the horizon weeks after Lyra was saved, reports came from the border. Another colony was under attack, this time a larger and more important one named Orthea. The council prepared the usual plan: evacuation, retreat, and the acceptance of loss. But when the humans heard, they refused. "Retreat again," said Captain Daniel Hayes, "and you'll give the enemy another step toward your heart? We cannot keep running. We must stand and we must fight." The council hesitated. For generations, their survival strategy had been caution. They believed it was wisdom. To fight head-on seemed reckless, almost madness, but the humans did not see it that way. On Earth, survival had always meant action. When storms came, they built shelters. When predators attacked, they defended their homes. To do nothing was death, and so the humans prepared to act. Into the fire the fleet jumped toward Orthia. Council ships followed again, but at a safe distance, ready to watch and study. Many commanders expected disaster. To charge directly at the harvesters was suicide. Yet when the enemy arrived, the humans did not hesitate. Their ships roared forward, shields blazing, engines burning hot. Instead of spreading thin, they clustered together, protecting one another, moving as if they were one body. Missiles, railguns, and plasma cannons unleashed their fury. The harvesters responded with beams of terrible energy, cutting through the void like blades of light. Entire human ships shook under the impact, armor melting, hulls screaming. But the humans did not fall back. They pressed on. "Keep firing," Hayes shouted. "Every second we hold is another life saved on the ground." War on the surface. While the fleets clashed in orbit, human soldiers descended to Orthia's surface. The colony was in chaos. Families ran through the streets searching for safety. Buildings crumbled under the shock of orbital bombardments. Council troops, brave but unprepared, were already pulling back. Then the humans arrived. They landed in heavy armor that looked like walking fortresses. Their weapons thundered, tearing through harvester drones that stalked the city. Where others saw despair, humans saw opportunity. They turned collapsed buildings into barricades, welded scraps into weapons, and set traps in narrow streets. "Hold the line," shouted Sergeant Malik, his voice echoing through the smoke. "Every block we defend buys us another hour." The colonists watched in awe. They had never seen soldiers fight like this. Council troops usually relied on shields and retreat. But the humans stood their ground even when outnumbered. A child cried as drones closed in. A human soldier threw himself forward, shielding the child with his armor and blasting the machines apart. To the people of Orthia, these warriors were not strangers. They were protectors. Alien eyes watching high above in orbit, Council commanders observed every moment of the battle. What they saw shook them to their core. The humans fought with creativity. When their weapons overheated, they cooled them with liquid from broken pipes. When drones swarmed in overwhelming numbers, they collapsed buildings on top of them. When the harvesters adapted to one tactic, humans invented another within minutes. "They fight like chaos," one alien officer whispered. "No," another corrected softly. "They fight like survival." For the first time, alien commanders began to take notes, not on how to retreat, but on how to resist. Turning the tide as the battle dragged on, the humans realized the harvesters had a weakness. Their ground drones relied on central command nodes hidden within the city. Destroy the nodes and the swarm would falter. Captain Hayes coordinated with both fleet and ground teams. "Target those nodes! Break their network." Human squads pushed deep into the city, facing endless resistance. Explosions lit the night sky, drones swarming in dark rivers. Yet the humans pressed forward, guided by instinct and determination. Finally, Sergeant Malik's team reached one of the command nodes. It was a black tower of shifting metal, humming with alien energy. Drones poured out to defend it. "Charge!" Malik roared. The humans fought like wolves, tearing through the defenders. Grenades exploded against the tower. With one final blast, the node collapsed in fire. Across the battlefield, drones froze, confused, their coordination broken. Cheers erupted across the comms. One node destroyed. Others still remained, but the tide had turned. Victory at Orthia by dawn, the harvesters were retreating. Their swarm, once endless, broke apart as humans and council ships pressed the advantage. One by one, the command nodes were destroyed. When the smoke cleared, Orthia still stood. Buildings were scarred, streets were broken, but the colony lived. Survivors gathered in the city square. They watched as human soldiers removed their helmets, faces tired but proud. Children ran forward, wrapping their arms around the strangers in armor. To the colonists, the humans were not just warriors. They were hope made flesh. Reactions across the galaxy, the victory sent shockwaves through the galaxy. For generations, the harvesters had been unstoppable. Worlds fell, fleets shattered, colonies abandoned. But here at Orthia, the impossible had happened. The enemy had been defeated, not by ancient empires or mighty weapons, but by newcomers from a world no one had known. The council debated endlessly. Some still feared the humans, calling them dangerous, unpredictable, even reckless. But others argued with passion. "Dangerous, yes," one delegate admitted, "but not to us. To our enemies. And in these dark times, is that not what we need? Bonds forged in fire, In the weeks that followed, human officers worked closely with alien commanders. They taught them new tactics, how to adapt, how to improvise, how to fight not with fear but with determination. At first, many aliens struggled. They were unused to chaos, to fighting without careful planning. But as they trained with humans, something changed. They began to see war not as hopeless but as survival. Meanwhile, human engineers shared their designs. Their ships were not the most advanced, but they were resilient, built to endure punishment. Council scientists studied their armor, amazed at how such primitive materials could survive where delicate alloys failed. Slowly, trust began to grow. Whispers of doubt, yet not everyone was convinced. In hidden corners of the council, whispers spread. What if the humans grow too powerful? What if they save us today only to rule us tomorrow? Fear lingered, deep and quiet. But those fears were drowned for now by the sound of hope. A message to the galaxy standing before the council. Captain Hayes spoke once more. Orthia was only one battle. The harvesters will return. They will not stop. But we have shown that they can be fought. Not with retreat, not with surrender, but with courage. Stand with us. Learn with us. Together we will endure. The chamber filled with applause. Species that had once looked at humans with suspicion now looked with respect. For the first time, the galaxy began to believe that survival was possible. The Deathworlders' lesson in the days that followed. One phrase echoed through countless worlds. The Deathworlders are here. At first it had been spoken with fear, but now it carried a different meaning. It meant that when all seemed lost, there were still those who would fight. It meant that the galaxy was no longer alone. It meant that humanity, born on a harsh, unforgiving world, was willing to share its strength with the stars. The harvesters were still out there, vast and merciless. But they had been wounded, and more importantly, the galaxy had found its champions. Humanity had arrived, and they had shown not just how to fight, but how to survive. The victories at Lyra and Orthia shook the galaxy. For decades, the Void Harvesters had seemed invincible. Their advance like a storm, no one could resist. Colonies fell, fleets scattered, worlds turned silent. But then came the humans, the Deathworlders from a small unknown planet. They fought with courage, creativity, and unyielding will. And for the first time in living memory, the enemy retreated. Yet victory was only the beginning. Winning battles was one thing. Building trust was another. Whispers in the council and the shining halls of the Galactic Council debate raged. Some delegates praised the humans. They saved Orthia, one ambassador declared. Without them, millions would be dead. They bring strength we have never seen before. But others spoke with caution. They are too dangerous, another argued. Did you see how they fight? They destroy, they improvise, they risk everything. One day they may turn that power against us. The chamber filled with voices. Hope, fear, admiration, suspicion. At the center of it all stood Captain Daniel Hayes, silent as the storm swirled around him. He did not argue. He simply waited, letting the council's words echo. Finally, when the noise faded, he spoke. We did not come to replace you, he said. We did not come to rule you. We came because you asked for help. And on Earth, when someone cries for help, we answer. But if you want us to fight beside you, then you must decide, do you trust us? The chamber grew silent. Shared training to prove their intentions, humans invited alien soldiers to train with them. On a barren moon near the capital, camps were built. Human and alien troops marched together, drilled together, and learned each other's ways. At first, the differences seemed impossible to bridge. Alien soldiers were careful, relying on formations, shields, and precision. Humans, by contrast, thrived in chaos. They adapted quickly, turning failures into victories, finding ways to survive where others would fall. At first, the aliens struggled. When humans staged surprise ambushes during exercises, alien troops panicked. When humans demanded long marches under harsh conditions, alien bodies grew weary. But the humans encouraged them. You can do more than you think, Sergeant Malik told a group of nervous recruits. Don't fear the storm, use it. Don't wait for perfect orders. Adapt, survive. Slowly, the aliens began to change. They learned to fight in new ways, to improvise, to trust their instincts. They began to understand what made humans different, not just their strength, but their refusal to break. Bonds of brotherhood in the camps. Friendships grew. A soldier from the gentle water world of Lyra learned how to fire human rifles. laughing with her instructors as the recoil nearly knocked her down. A tall warrior from the desert planet Teros shared his rations with human troops, impressed that they ate food spiced with heat that would burn other species. At night, they told stories. Humans spoke of Earth storms, predators, and endless struggles. Aliens listened in awe, realizing why humans were so resilient. In turn, aliens shared tales of their own worlds, of glowing seas, crystal mountains, and peaceful skies. Slowly, suspicion faded. They were no longer strangers. They were comrades. A shadow of doubt, but not everyone was convinced. In the Council's secret chambers, some leaders still whispered in fear. The humans are winning battles, yes. But what happens after the war? What if they claim worlds for themselves? What if they reshape the galaxy in their image? Old fears ran deep. For species that had known only fragile peace, humanity's raw strength was frightening. Meanwhile, rumors spread. Some claimed humans wanted to build their own empire. Others said they had dark weapons hidden on their homeworld. Fear is hard to silence, even in the face of truth. And then, before trust could settle, disaster struck. The Harvester Armada scouts reported movement on the edge of Council space. Not just a swarm, not just a raiding force, an entire armada. The Void Harvesters were coming in strength never seen before. Their target was clear: the capital world of the Council itself. Panic filled the chambers. The capital was the heart of the Alliance. If it fell, the galaxy would be leaderless, scattered, and broken. Some urged evacuation. Others begged for surrender. The fear of extinction returned like a dark tide, but the humans stood firm. "This is the moment," Captain Hayes said. "This is where we make our stand. Not for one colony, not for one system, for the galaxy itself. Fight with us, not behind us. With us." His words carried weight, but fear still lingered. Choosing unity, it was then that the soldiers who had trained beside the humans spoke up. Alien commanders, once cautious, now raised their voices. "We have seen them fight," one declared. "We have seen how they bleed, how they protect, how they endure. If we cannot trust them now, when can we?" The chamber grew silent. Slowly, one by one, leaders stood in agreement. The galaxy would not flee. The galaxy would fight. And for the first time, humanity would not stand alone. Forging the Alliance preparations began at once. Fleets from every corner of the galaxy gathered near the capital. Ships of every shape and size, sleek cruisers, massive carriers, delicate scout craft, united under one banner. At the center of it all stood the human fleet, scarred from battles but unbroken. Their ships became the rallying point, their crews the example others sought to follow. Engineers worked side by side, blending alien technology with human resilience. Shields once too fragile were reinforced with human armor. Human weapons were upgraded with alien precision. For the first time, true cooperation was born, not just in words, but in fire and steel. Fire forged trust in the ground, troops prepared defenses. Humans and aliens dug trenches together, built fortifications and set traps. They trained not as separate units, but as one army. At night, they looked to the stars, knowing the armada was coming. Fear lingered, but it no longer ruled them. Trust had been forged, not in speeches, not in promises, but in shared struggle and survival. The calm before the storm, as the final days before the battle passed, Captain Hayes stood with alien leaders on the observation deck of the Council's capital station. Below them, the glittering world shone, unaware of the doom approaching. Hayes spoke softly. "On Earth, we learned that fire either destroys or forges. We have been through fire together. And now we are forged." The alien leaders nodded. For the first time, they truly believed his words. The enemy approaches, and then the alarms rang. The Void Harvester Armada had arrived. Thousands of ships, black as shadows, filled the edge of the system. Their cold silence echoed across the void. The galaxy trembled, but it did not retreat. For the first time in history, humanity and the Galactic Council stood united. Ships armed, soldiers ready, hearts burning with the same flame. Trust had been forged. Now it would be tested in fire.